color this man father.
Color him father.
I think I'll color him love.
Color him love.
Said I'm gonna color
Hey, so
him love.
welcome to our podcast, Color Him Dads, episode 25, right? Who would have thunk we'd have been able to get along down the road this far? But I'm really excited about what we've been doing, and shout out to Irie, who's been our technical advisor on this and recording all our podcasts. And so I appreciate you, bro, really a whole lot, man. You're posting them. Matter of fact, I think at last count we had well over 20,000 people looking at the podcast, and so that was kind of shocking to me. But it says people are paying attention to what our conversation has been about. It's really been about fatherhood and fathering and some of the stories that we've been able to talk about. I tell you today, we're going to dive into a trip that my bro Larry, Pastor Larry Brooks, and myself took last week to Portland, Oregon. And it was an opportunity to go and speak to men who were incarcerated. I think we went to 3 penitentiaries or 2? Three. A maximum, a medium, and a prison for young men. When I say young, I'm talking about from 16 to 25, and that about took my breath away. So
that was the hard one.
Yeah, we're gonna dive off into this, and it'll just Larry, we'll just be having some conversation about our experiences down at. So we have a friend who has a ministry in Portland called Going Home To, a thriving ministry. It reminds me so much of myself when I was his age, right? But he's passionate about doing the work, and so Going Home To is when men are coming out of prison, and he creates an opportunity for the men to have success. And one of the things that he said that caught my attention was that he noticed that even in his own life, who he had been to prison and back, he didn't have a father figure in his life, and he said most of the men didn't have father figures in their lives, and that came out in one of our sessions. It was resounding how it just came across, and so we'll talk about that. Hey, Larry, do you want to add anything to this while we're talking?
Well, to that point, when you say that, it's one thing because we deal with data.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things we talk about is the fatherless being at an pandemic. I say pandemic. And to know that we have that data that say 90-something% of the men who are incarcerated didn't have fathers in their lives.
Right.
But then to have the opportunity, Marvin, to actually ask the question as we did,
and see the
raise
response.
your hand, and see the response, none of those guys had fathers in their lives.
Yeah.
So to see that reality in real time, it hit a little bit different.
It was 104 guys we seen.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and none of them guys had fathers.
Even the younger guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Man. Well, talk about what stood out to you, not just the living in the data aspect, but talk about what stood out to you.
So having that experience, and I've had an opportunity to feed the homeless.
Mm-hmm.
Had an opportunity to where I met Pops at your father,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Doing the class work with senior citizens, and that was always at the top of my list, and will remain that.
Mm-hmm.
And then working with the women and children, right? But the Bible says, when I was in prison, you visited me not, and I never had the opportunity to go behind those prison walls. And while I was in there, it hit me, right? I left the days after, and I'm thinking, wow, why did he commission us to go into those prison walls? And once I see what they were doing behind those walls, the older guys in the classes that they were doing, and when they walked us over and showed us their clubs and the classes that they're teaching the young people, that stood out to me, man. You know, and then so I thought we were there just to bless them. Like when I used to do the feeding, I go down to do the feeding, think I'm going to bless them. In turn, they turn around and blessed us. And I felt that same experience from last week. When we went in to be a blessing to them, they turned up being a blessing to us, sharing that information. And so this week we have shared information. They're going to give me some of the information because we're sort of doing the same work.
So you're taking back off tonight. In fact, you're headed back down there, and the way it appears to be, you'll be doing that weekly.
Bi-weekly, probably.
Bi-weekly, yeah. And what happens is we go into OSP, Oregon State Penitentiary, and I've been inside before, but never in another state. And so let me give you kind of a layout of our dynamics, okay? So partnering with this friend of mine, a younger man, but he's energetic. He and his bride, his wife, the same kind of situation as DADS. My wife and I work together. I work here with Larry and his bride, and Michael Fesser, who we've interviewed. He has going home to, and what he's done is he works with men coming out of prison, and he goes into them. He goes into prison to get them prepared to come home. One of the things he said to me, though, is, Marvin, the piece I don't have that you have is the fathering piece.
Right.
He said, I have all the other components to it, but I don't have the fathering piece. So we chopped it up, and then he captured my attention when he said this. He said, you know, man, we used to raise a lot of havoc up and down the I-5 corridor.
That piece, yep.
And he said, why can't we repair? Why can't we take on the gospel up and down the I-5 corridor? And he challenged me, and I was like, man, that's a challenge I wanted to embrace. You know what I mean? And so Michael and I we've been talking about this stuff for 7 years now, and watching him grow and his ministry grow. And so we decided to do it 2025. Let's hit the ground running. And so Larry and I took off and went down, and I did not know what to expect. I didn't know what to expect. But I figured like this for me, Christ has done so much for my life and for my children's life. All I asked to do was bring my children back together again, my family back together again. I had no idea that he was creating an opportunity for me to help other men do the same thing.
Well, it's funny. One thing that comes to mind right now, when he said he opened up doors that no man can close, and I didn't see prison doors opening for me, right? And I'm laughing because I'm chuckling when you were able, because you have your books, authored of 5 books now, right? The 5th one coming, and when you were doing the book signing. And to see these men, these grown men, broken men, standing in line like you were a rock star, right? And waiting for you to sign the book, right? And just watching that. And then there was other guys, and I don't know if you noticed this, that were running in, wanting a book to sign in line. And as Michael said, they're excited about this, and they're going to read this material. So how God has prepared you beforehand, before we went into the penal institution, to have all the material that we have in published right now, to see the excitement of them receiving that.
So since you said that, so this was my first book, but since then we have the curriculum, the parenting book, right? So you're going to be going in tomorrow, start teaching the parenting classes, right?
Absolutely.
And that's, to me, I'm excited about the fact that, boy, what is this going to do for that community, right? Some of these guys are getting out of prison. And some of these guys will be able to use these tools, man. Now, I didn't see that coming. Right. You know what I'm saying? I didn't see that. We have a saying around dads, man, that we didn't see this in the kitchen when we were starting, because we were doing in the kitchen, right?
Right.
Getting this ministry off the ground. Now we look at it 27 years later, and we get a chance to see that, man, this blows my mind. I didn't see this. So being in that Oregon State Penitentiary, man, and watching these men sit around. Man, we sent 104 men today. I know I keep saying that, but I was like, wow, man. These guys were asking questions. I have this one thing that I do all the time. I tell the story about my mother was 14 when she had me and my dad was 20.
Yeah, that piece.
And I asked the guys, how many of them would let your 14-year-old daughter come home with a 20-year-old man? And they was like cussing it. Oh, man, ain't nowhere in hell, man. I ain't gonna do nothing like that.
Right.
And then I asked him, well, how can you stop it if you're in here?
You should have heard the sigh. Yeah.
But it was a reality check. It was these guys that, listen, you still matter to your kids. Regardless, you still matter to your kids.
After being locked up for 40 years, 30 years, 20 years, and they're still not giving up. And you know, so when we were in the office and we were looking at the paperwork, these were hardened criminals.
No question.
That's what society would say, right? These were hardened criminals. And the fact that I'm not knowing, but to see how transparent they were and to show their brokenness and their humbleness, I've never experienced nothing like that before, Marvin.
Do you think the fact that, so we walk in and Michael introduced you and me, he introduces you, you introduce me, and I start off just telling him, listen, I've been here before. You know what I mean? I don't want you to look at me different. I've been here before. But I'm here again now because I know what's needed in here. Because I've been here before, I know what's needed in here. And so I just want to share with you what I believe is needed. And I'll tell you, the greatest compliment anybody's ever paid me was when the young man in the back of the room, when we were done, said, listen, man, you have no idea what it is to feel like you coming in here talking to us. See, we can believe you because you've walked in our shoes and we're walking in your shoes, which is better than having somebody who got a degree in something, a textbook knowledge, and he coming in here trying to tell us what it is.
That's what he said.
Yeah, he said, man, I can't do that one, right?
Well, what about the part as they introduced themselves and they said to us, thank you for being there. Oh. It's just like, wow. Again, that's blessing me, and I'm here, but they were appreciated that we took this time to come in here and share it. And I thought, because I watched it from a front seat, you open it up and being transparent, open them up. But that's the same thing that we experience here in this community, right?
Yeah. Dads. I tell you, I've known this for a long time. Anytime you get men together and you're transparent, you lead out being transparent, they will follow. They will follow. But I think, Larry, did you notice when I noticed that as we dove deeper into the transparency, did you notice that they started seeming like they was freed up?
Yeah, and the stories, the moving part of men having around, because all of them had their identification badges, but then they had behind the badges, they had pictures of their children. And then they reached in their pocket and pulled out pictures and shared it with the whole class, their latest pictures.
Yes.
There's still hope, right? After 20 years of doing time. Come on, man.
They've had some things that they've created in their institutions down there where they had a daddy-daughter dance where the daughter would come and the man would get dressed up, and now they put a dance on where they got to dance with their daughters inside the institution. Yeah. You know, hey man, that and these men were proud of those opportunities.
I had a couple of frightening moments though too.
Did you?
Yeah. Going in when they read us your Miranda rights. And they let us know, well, you could be stabbed or it's an opportunity for a prison riot and you would be in the midst of this danger. So there was a moment of clarity, and then when those doors started shutting behind me, and then afterwards, she warned us about not going off with any prisoner and everything. And so after we came out of class, one of the inmates were telling me to follow him over here, and I'm following him, and that thought came to my mind. I'm like, where am I going? And all he really wanted to do was show me their club, show me the classes and the work that they're doing there, and it's just powerful to see. But I had that thought. I was like, why am I following him, right? And so, yeah, it was a couple scary moments there.
Well, see, I what happens is I understand the makeup of men. And these men were excited to share with somebody. How many times does two men come into the prison institution and they get to take advantage of showing them the work that they do?
That right.
Folks don't get to see that.
Right.
So I knew that there was an astronomical amount of excitement to be able to share that with us, right? And I know how it is when folks get excited about something, and this man is doing 30 years. He don't know when he's going home or if he's going home, right? So he gets a chance to interact with somebody from the outside. That's right. He just wanted to share his goals and share what he's doing. And I felt that, Larry. I felt that, man. I did. He's reminding me, I felt it so strong, I started walking on off, right, and forgot I was in prison. You know what I mean? I'm classified as a visitor or something here, and I'm walking off, and I thought, well, what are you doing, right?
Right.
But I was excited about the fact. Now, Larry, there's an aspect to that day that we did that it wore me out, man. It wore me out. We went to the young people's prison. I don't even know how to classify that. These were folks that were 16 to 25. And those are the ages of my kids, all 8 of them, right? From 16 to 35 to 40. My son Nick called me the other day. He's 37 years old. And I was thinking about the ranges of those kids who are incarcerated, and my friend Michael walked up and asked every last one of them. Like I said, it must have been what? How many kids would you say that was on that one campaign?
Well, we went to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different
housing
units, right?
And these kids don't have any idea when they're getting out.
That's sad.
And so, I mean, I talked to a 21-year-old and a 22-year-old, and we had some real dialogue, and they were asking, he said, man, I just mess up every time I get to smoking marijuana. I just get to messing up. Well, my kids smoke marijuana. It never did me right. So when he was telling me that, I was identifying with him.
Yeah, their messing up is a little different, though, because they got bodies, right? And that's, when you see the little teardrops and the dots on their eyes, that representing that they had bodies, and they're just waiting there until they turn 25 to go to the big house. That just grabbed my heart.
Yeah,
man.
that was sad, man. That was sad to be able to see these young men whose life is over before it even got started, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And half of them, you could tell through the dialogue we were having that they didn't even know. They had no idea what they had done and what life was going to cost them. What price they were going to have to pay for the life that they've just acquired. And that was the part that was sad to me, because, dude, you don't even know what you done. You don't know what's your opportunity. And one dude, 16-year-old, said he had a baby that was 1 year old, and he didn't know. And so it just makes you think about it. It makes, for me, what it makes me do is want to do this work even more so, even harder. You know what I mean?
Well, going from where maximum security to minimum, and the minimum was a different experience, because now we have guys that are going home,
right,
with the opportunity to going home. So that, with the opportunity that we have to go in there to do the classes, to get them prepared for what they have to meet from child support issues and all that kind of stuff, which Michael is interested that we'll be able to integrate into his program. And so that was a glimmer of hope. But unbeknownst to me, the next day I had to do a funeral for a cousin who was a young man, 36, who died from an overdose. And so when I arrived there, the first thing I see is young people young little gangsters. And I'm like, and I look at his picture, and he's throwing up a gang sign. And so by the time I get ready to start the service, the first thing I did, I spoke to those young people, because I'm thinking about our visit, and I'm seeing these young people, and it just hit really hard, right? And so we shared words of encouragement, and my heart was still heavy from that visit, from that last stop that we made. And so those are some of my takeaways, man. It hit home. It changed me. But I'm excited to go in there tomorrow. And in the same way we do our Bible classes, how does that speak to you?
Yeah.
That's the same way I'm going to do this,
Amen.
right? And to show the information that we have, yeah.
Well, you know, Dads is really fortunate, Larry, to have you as an instructor, because you have a way of getting our client base involved in the 13-week classes. So I'd be curious to see if you have to tweak it a little bit because you're doing it behind walls, or do you do the same layout? I'm curious and excited to hear how you have to navigate those waters, right? Because this is no joke.
Yeah.
But you have a captive audience now, right? So they're going to be wanting to, ask questions and how do we do this?
It started last week, in the words of Art Kopecky, your mentor and mine, dialogue over monologue.
Yeah, there you go.
And them sharing what was the elder gentleman that was there? He had been back and forth. Michael spoke to him a couple times.
Wall Street.
Yeah, Wall Street.
Yeah.
The dialogue
right.
that you created that gave them a chance to share. Each one teach one, right?
Yeah. I like I said, man, I could envision this. Truthfully said, I could envision that something like this could spread across this country, that we don't just do fatherhood outside, but we do fatherhood in community, because these guys really do want to connect with their children.
Absolutely.
They want to talk to them on the phone. They want to speak. And they realize they've made some mistakes, but the classes that teach them how to be able to navigate around those classes, how to navigate around those mistakes. How I told one guy said, he made mention that my kids won't talk to me. So I gave up. I said, well, that reminded me of something. I used to do telemarketing, and telemarketing, they'll tell you, don't hang the phone up until you've gotten 3 hard no's. Well, guess what? I know your kids are worth way more than a telemarketing ad. So if they're telling you to take 3 hard no's, your kids are worth 3 hard no's.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so if they keep playing you off, just keep coming back at them. Keep coming back at them. Make sure they tell you no 3 hard times, because what you'll find out is your child is missing you just as much as you missing them. Now, each child uses a different technique on how to share that, but no, they are. And what I had to get the grips of this fact here, and that was, they just wanted my time, and I never had time for them. I was too busy doing this or too busy doing that. And then when I came to the realization that all I had to do was be there for them for as little or as much as they wanted me to be, I started getting different reactions, different behavior responses. And that's what my advice is to fathers. Just children spell time, not M-O-N-E-Y.
Mm-hmm.
They spell it T-I-M-E. That's what they want, your time.
Right.
And so it helps to understand that when you're walking in. And it ain't going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. But anything that's not easy is worth fighting for. And so the love of your children. And I have never met a child or a parent that didn't love their me. I didn't start becoming a father till I was 42 years old. My kids love me. It's rough, and they'll tell me give me their peace of mind, but they still give me the opportunity to be a father in their lives. And that's all we all look for, man.
Well, I'm excited because the curriculum, right? I think in the last 5 years, with all the cohorts and classes that Gregory and I have done here, one of the things that we share with them is that we live out this curriculum on a day-to-day, right? I might not be in prison, but I have children that I have to reconnect with too. So that same message rings the same as it rings with those gentlemen. I'm excited because we get to share the tools of the curriculum with them. And they're like building blocks. Yeah. I believe in that curriculum. It gives us the tools. It gives us the encouragement and the motivation to stay in the fight, to stay in it, and not give up. And it brings about hope. So that's why I'm excited about going back in again and building relationships. One thing that I've learned here is the value of relationships, right? And as we talk about our children, I think that same principle stands for as often as they see us coming back inside, relationships begin to build. Yeah.
Amen. So give them the name of that curriculum, Larry, that you use, that you're fond of.
What's the name of our thing? The Father...
Becoming Dads, right?
Becoming Dads curriculum, yes. Becoming Dads, which you authored. Yeah, the Becoming Dads curriculum. We do the 13-week course. And each one, I think I cried so much the last graduation. I embarrassed myself. I was trying to hide behind the screen. But to see the successes of these fathers that come in and humble, as the Bible says, humble yourself before the presence of the Lord, and He exalts you in due season. And to see these men that would be open-minded to receive, and most of these guys have never had fathers in their lives, so they don't know what fatherhood really looks like, right? And these tools give us the opportunity to be able to share that with them.
Man, Larry, I wrote the book, and I didn't have a father in my life, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I know the pain that men feel, right? But I also know that we have to get past that pain, because then we're going to recreate the same thing we had in our lives.
That piece.
And that's the whole point of this, trying to just work like I'm always reminded of the Michael Jackson video Thriller. When those men and women get up out the grave, I feel like that's the way my fatherhood looked, right? You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
It looked all crazy and wild, but you know what? I got it together, right?
Yeah. What's that saying you say? You're preparing your kids for what?
A future father's job is to prepare their children for a future that he will never see, right? Man, I got grandbabies running around the house now, man. And I look at other men who have grandchildren. And yes, it might have been shaky with your children. Well, now guess what? It's time to clean it up with the grandbabies, right?
Right.
Because all they want to know, and here's what we think, well, my children turn my grandchildren away from, no. Because see, if you lock into that understanding, then you're going to miss the valuable understanding. And the valuable understanding is your grandkids want to know about Pawpaw. You know what I mean? And Grandma, we want to know. I want to know what's going on with them. You're my blood. Tell me about you, right? And that's the ticket. That's the gold-winning ticket right there, right? But they have to be encouraged.
So are you encouraged? I know you're asking the question, and I got one for you. You ready?
Yeah.
So when I onboarded here, you had a vision. And one of your visions that you've made, and you've been persistent and consistent with it, is that you had a vision that you seen this work being in every urban core. So as we move down the I-5 corridor, how does it feel actually seeing this come to pass? And then we just got off a call today with somebody in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We had somebody come in from Los Angeles. How do you feel as you see this vision coming to pass? You actually,
you know, man, it's just like the 27 years that's gone by since doing DADS. I never really give it a thought. I never give it a thought. Why? Because it's so much fun doing the work. I don't get a chance, and maybe the truth of the matter is I'm scared to look that way. I just want to do it. When I start paying attention to those kind of things and something don't work, and that's get discouraging and all that, and that's too much. It's more fun just watching the scripture is talking about the sower and the planter, right? That's what I feel like. I feel like I get to sow and I get to plant. And I don't need to concern myself with anything else, right? And that's the way I felt when we went into that institution, man. There were plenty men that I could sow seeds in, right? Will I ever see what if they sow it up or if it grows or what it's going to grow? No, but I get to sow. And guess what? Guess who gets the harvest? The Lord does.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, I'm humble because I just want to say thank you for, number one, allowing me the opportunity to be able to sow, which this ministry has built in 27 years, and then trusting that I could go and carry on with that and water in that. I appreciate this opportunity, you know what I'm saying, to be a part of this vineyard, to spread this truth, you know?
See, truth be told, Larry, I had nothing to do with none of that. The Lord just made it possible. I watched you. You told me, this is how you captured me, to be able to walk alongside of me. You told me you went to pay your child support and you saw a poster of me on the wall. Right? And you said, Lord, if you could save him, I know you can give me a chance.
Right.
And I was exalted by that, right? Because, you know, for a long time, how my youth was and grew up and all that, I didn't think, you know, much about myself, right? But then God gave me a ministry, and he gave me his hand in friendship, and he started showing me how to care for myself and do the work. Yeah. But don't get caught up. You feel what I'm saying? And so I watched you in that, and I watched you work at the Union Gospel Mission for 10 years without any pay. Well, that's my guy right there. That's my guy right there, because all I got to do is give him a paycheck and he's good to go, right? Because you were doing it automatically already. I used to go to your church services, man. I watched you do it, right? So what people don't know, though, is when you do this work, people appreciate the work you do. The people really appreciate the work you do, man.
Absolutely.
And so once you get that, that's, I hate to say it, but that's payday enough, because people appreciate it.
Well, I'm thinking about that young man who wouldn't leave your side after you had exhausted, after we had that long day. I don't know how many hours we did down there, but you were totally exhausted. And it reminded me of the story of Jesus talking to the woman at the well. At that time, everybody else, but that young man, the leader of that house, he never left your side, and he was hanging on to every word, whatever that was that you were sharing with him. He was hanging on to every word, man. You know, and so it's powerful.
Hey, man, what you do before we close here, what you do is when you hook up with Michael tomorrow, just inquire about those youngsters.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
I'll say one of the other biggest thrills in our journey last week was we were riding back from the prison going down I-5, leaving Salem, going back to Portland, and a phone call from the prison came to my friend Michael, his car, and they were saying, man, them guys that came with you today, man, they did a hell of a job, man. They got the joint ringing up in here, man. And I was like, man, God, you done put me on every front there is, but I never would have felt like I'd have been on that front like that, right? Where your name is ringing in the penitentiary, right?
And his request, I need one of those books too. So we're going down with another 50-plus books signed, autographed, to take back in. So that's pretty awesome. And again, it speaks to your vision, man. How many people start a vision where you say, well, God told you don't go ask for nothing, don't go look for nothing, whatever you need, I'll send it to the door. Man. So all of our material is free, our classes are free, our services are free, and you just give these things out, right, where you could be selling them, but now we're seeding to broken men behind closed doors, right? What an opportunity.
Amen. Little do people know, that's how Jeanette and I got this ministry off the ground. We started going into halfway houses, and the halfway houses led us working with men coming out of prison. And I just knew that if you really want a man not to go back to prison, introduce him to his children.
Yeah.
Introduce him to his children. Give him the tools he needs to walk with them and his children, and he won't go back to prison.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that when we got that methodology down pat, and it was the Lord straight so much so that I can't even begin to take any kind of credit for it. But when we started introducing men to their children, man, they was coming out of them halfway houses. They wasn't going back. They'd see him come by the dad's office. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Charles, yeah, I got me a job. I got my kids. They'd pull up, blow the horn. I got my kids in the back. You know, it was just such a joy and a good feeling to understand that you get an opportunity to play a role to help make a difference in not only his life, but his children's lives. So
I like the word that you use, system navigators, as we seen the young man that just left our office. The fact that he can come in and say, I've been absent for this amount of years, but I got my life together now. And I have to tell you, I didn't have my life together. I was chemical dependency, and I had different anger issues and all this. He said, I've done everything now, and I'm ready to stand up.
Amen.
Right?
Amen.
What a grand opportunity.
Yes, man.
Right?
Yes, man.
Yeah, and so, yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man, and I know Michael's excited with the great work he's doing down there. And for us to be doing this I-5 corridor, it's exciting.
Well, you know, guys, me and Larry could pat one another on the back for another hour, but I tell you, this was not patting one another on the back. It was an experience that I think has impacted his life as well as mine, but
Yes.
also impacted Dad's and where we go from here. I don't even know how to tell you what to think about, but we'll have more to share with you about the work that goes on Dad's daily. We'll have some more stories come where men can tell you their own stories and what they've navigated and traveled. We'll just continue to have a podcast. If we don't do that, we'll just have some fatherhood talk and conversation. So until we see you again, till we show back up on our next episode, just be well. Be well. Larry, you got a last word for him?
Blessings and peace. Peace. We on our way, P.O.